You might be saying to yourself, these new versions compared to the older versions look so identical to each other. But then I would say to you, you're probably looking in the wrong place. That's right.
It's all yes.
Hello guys, it's Alan the Collector, and today we've got a special one. We are taking a look at the NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon Bebop and Rocksteady 2-pack. And the best part about this set is that it's not just a re-release, it's an update. But first, let's take a look at the packaging. We got Bebop right here, Rocksteady on the other side, and then we have some cartoon renderings of them here on the bottom of the packaging. The window allows us to see the few accessories that they come with. When we flip it to the back of the packaging, we get a product shot of our dynamic duo, and then a small bio. Wait a minute, that's a bio for the Turtles, not Bebop and Rocksteady, but honestly their reputations speak for themselves. And then we get some images of some other figures that were released around the same time as Bebop and Rocksteady. When we flip it to the side, we get Bebop right here, Rocksteady on the other side, and then in the bottom of the packaging, the people we gotta thank. Everyone at NECA, especially Trevor Zammit. He is basically the brains behind this TMNT line, and probably a big part of the reason we're getting these guys back again. Now, there's been a lot of confusion online about whether or not to pick these guys up. Are they different from their original release? And I'm gonna tell you every reason why you definitely need to pick this set up. But let's go ahead and crack these guys open so that they can stomp some toidles. Alright guys, here we have our favorite mutant rhino and our favorite mutant warthog out of the packaging, and I have to say, first impressions, they look pretty nice. They live up to the standards of the cartoon line that we've seen so far, but were they worth releasing a third time? And more importantly, do you need to add this to your collection? Even if you already own them, perhaps. We'll answer all of that and more, but first, let's take a look at their accessories. Now, it's not the usual abundance of accessories that we're used to getting with 2-packs as of late, but this set still comes with a decent amount. Bebop and Rocksteady both come with 2 pairs of identical hands. One's colored in gray, the other's colored in tan, 2 laser rifles, 2 laser guns, and a communicator device with Shredder pictured on the screen. Now, getting back to the figures, I'm really glad that NECA is giving new collectors a shot at adding these guys to their shelves. After all, they've only been released a total of 3 times, including this release, since 2019. But the question on everyone's mind is, how do these guys differ from those original releases? Well, thankfully, I've been collecting the line since day one, and I can tell you just that. So first, we'll take a look at Bebop here. Up top, Bebop is rocking his signature purple mohawk, followed by his purple sunglasses down below, and they're actually articulated when we move them up. Ooh.
What's wrong with your eyes?
I see why you wear those now. I really like how his mouth is also articulated, and if you lift his head way up, you can open his mouth really wide. Some decent black paint in there, followed by a pink tongue. Very cool. We get a bone necklace, and then we get these green turtle shell shoulder pads. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind is that just like on that original release, NECA glued these turtle shells to the red part of his vest, which was kind of a poor decision, because while he is able to move his arms back and forth, if you try and do it too much, what you'll see is that it's pulling on the turtle shell right here. And if you're not careful, you'll actually pop that off. We got a decent black bandolier. It's glued into the inside of his red vest, so you're not actually going to be taking that off anytime soon. We got some light gray grenades, and then that signature bright red vest. When we go to the back, that color continues, and then we get more of those black ink lines. As far as his pants, we've got a jet black going on with the matte finish, and then we have this light gray band on the left side of his leg, and then he's sporting some pretty fresh kicks and that same red color as his vest, and then we get some decent black lines for the white of his sneakers. The biggest aesthetic difference between the first release and the one we have right here is it's as if someone took a remote and just punched up the colors a bunch. Don't believe me? Well, here he is compared to NECA's first attempt. Yeah, this older version just looks dingier overall, but the differences go beyond that. When we flip him to the side, we're going to put the new version off. We can see that this older version is sporting that 2-tone paint job, which was a hallmark of the Toon line from the very beginning. Here we have a dark red color up front, and then it almost gets to a more brick color in the back. The same can be said for the back of Bebop's head. It's a darker brown while the front is tan, and the back of his arms have that same 2-tone paint job. Other than that, we just get darker grays for his grenades, his bracelet, his chains, and the band on his left leg. In fact, the only things that aren't brighter by comparison are his shoulder pads. Here, these turtle shells are a more pale green and yellow compared to the more saturated color of the new release. But let's not forget about Rocksteady. I love his look as well. Again, he has those same black outlines indicative of the cartoon line. I really like the way his head sculpt came out, and I like how crazy his eyes look too. They almost look a little off-center, but I think that just adds to the goofiness of the character. He's got a rather impressive hinged jaw, which has been present on every version of Rocksteady released so far. And then I like how his gray belly is just poking out of that yellow tank top he's wearing. Rocksteady actually shares the same upper body as Bebop, but this tank top and gray belly are actually an overlay to give him a slightly different look. We get what looks to be a grenade hanging off one of his straps in the front, and then he's got another grenade in the back, followed by a turtle shell. Man, are they just offing normal turtles, or does Leonardo and his brothers have some other siblings they didn't know about? I like how he's also sporting this bandolier that goes all the way around to the back of the figure with these gray bullets painted and sculpted in. Let's not forget this wooden sword. Just like the original release, it is not removable, it just hangs on his back. And then he has these dark khaki colored cargo pants. I like how the pockets are sculpted on these things, and then everything as we've seen so far has these black outlines on it, just to really bring out those cartoon details. He's got a brown belt with some gray paint for the buckle, and then it's all held up by these brown boots with these rectangular details sculpted up top. Now, just like Bebop, Rocksteady is also a little bit brighter than that original release scene right here, but the differences are a bit more subtle this time around. Getting him out of the way, when we look at the older version again, he has that two-tone paint job, a lighter gray up front, a darker gray at the back. When we lift up his arm, we can also see that two-tone paint job on his tank top. The front is a bright yellow, it almost matches the new release, and then it gets a whole lot darker at the back. The same is also true for his pants, a darker brown in the back, but the lighter brown in the front. One other difference is that when you open the old Rocksteady's mouth, you see that the inside wasn't painted black. They left it gray, but they did add pink paint for the tongue. Much different than the new release, which was painted black, which looks a whole lot better if you ask me. Now, to the untrained eye of a more casual collector, you might be saying to yourself, Alan, that's still not enough of a reason for me to buy these new versions compared to the older versions, especially when they look so identical to each other. But then I would say to you, you're probably looking in the wrong place. That's right.
It's all in hips.
No, seriously, I'm being for real. Take a look. No, I promise you, it's not that kind of a video. Take a look. This is the new ball-jointed hip articulation that we've been getting on all the cartoon TMNT figures as of late. And not only does it help their legs to move a whole lot more freely, but it also means they're less prone to breaking. Don't believe me? Well, let's take a look at Rocksteady here. Now, I take really good care of my figures, but even I wasn't immune to the potential breakages that could occur with this older hip articulation. Now, it's kind of hard to tell, but you can already see a crack starting to form in the crotch piece where the hips come together. What will happen over time is that crotch is just going to explode on you.
That's what she said?
This engineering issue has been present on all prior releases of Bebop and Rocksteady outside of these newer versions since 2019. And I'm even talking about the Loot Crate exclusive Bunny Rabbit versions of Bebop and Rocksteady, which are not only highly sought after, but also highly prone to breaking. Fortunately, NECA rectified the issue with these new releases, and that's going to play a huge role into the longevity of these figures. But enough comparisons with the older figures, let's take a look at their accessories, starting with their hands. Now, each figure comes with 4 different hands, but they're completely identical between the two figures. We have an open right hand and a left gripping hand, followed by a right trigger finger hand and another style pose hand for the left. And they swap out just about as well as you would expect. And now that they have some gripping hands, they can hold this communicator device. It's molded in black plastic, but it has purple paint on the front and back, and then it also has some red and yellow details for the buttons here, and then some gray paint for the loops on the top and the side. I also like the added touch of this image of Shredder. That's an actual photo of the cartoon Shredder NECA made, which is a pretty nice touch if you ask me. When we flip it to the back, it just has some more black outlining for some shell shading details, and then a little touch of gray paint here, and it'll just kind of fit in their hand like so. I wonder what he's saying.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
Yep, sounds about right. But if you've been collecting the line as long as I have, you also have these additional communication devices with images of Rocksteady, Bebop, and Krang. These came packed in with a few of the 2-pack from the early days of the line. So now you not only have the option of Bebop and Rocksteady talking to each other, but you can also have them communicating with Krang as well. I wish NECA included these in this release for those who've missed out, but if you've been in the line since the beginning, it's a pretty nice treat. And finally, let's take a look at their last accessories, this laser blaster and this laser rifle. Now, I believe the specific name for these lasers are the stun lasers. We'll give Rocksteady here this rifle, and then we'll give Bebop here this blaster. There you go. So now we can stun some Toidles and their allies in your collection. Now, the interesting thing about these stun lasers is that this is actually the second design that they had in the series. The first design was based more on earth weapons, and it just so happens that NECA sculpted those as well. Now, these came packed in with the orange Triceraton infantry soldier as an added bonus, so if you have these lying around, you can give these to Bebop and Rocksteady to give them more of a season 1 appearance. So we'll just pop this out of his hand and we'll just give him his right trigger finger. There you go. And then we'll just put this in like so. Allow him to grip it. And then we'll do the same thing with Bebop here. I think these look a little bit cooler than the weapons they come packed with. And even though these look like earth-based weapons, trust me, they aren't designed for spraying lead. Don't believe me? What'd I tell ya? Now, the reason why these were redesigned in the first place is because they wanted to tone down on the violence depicted in the cartoon, so they were given a more sci-fi look for the later seasons. But again, if you've been collecting the line from the very beginning, this is a nice treat for you to dig up and add to these guys. Oh, and before I forget, we have this cap that goes with Rocksteady that came with the Baby Turtle set about a year ago. And it will just kind of fit right on his head like so. So yeah, now you can have a really authentic look for Rocksteady. Very cool. Now, as far as size comparisons go, Bebop and Rocksteady stand about 6.5 inches tall, which means they'll pair up nicely with some Cobra henchmen in the classified line. They'll be just a hair shorter than the McFarlane DC multiverse figures. Here we have the big three of the Justice League movie line. They'll look pretty formidable alongside some Power Rangers Lightning Collection figures like the Psycho Rangers, and just a bit taller than standard Marvel Legends like Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Deadpool. Moving on to cartoons, they'll pair up quite nicely with the Diamond Select Real Ghostbusters figures. They oddly stand taller than their supervillain counterparts Mighty Hog and Rhino Man. They're on par with their robotic replacements Super Bebop and Mighty Rocksteady, much bigger than the likes of Dr. Baxter Stockman, Shredder, and Krang with its Bubble Walker, as well as their pre-mutated selves. And of course, they'll tower over our four-turtle brothers in April O'Neil. And finally, here's how they look under black light. Not very reactive, but I can dig the look nonetheless. So as for my final thoughts, it may be the third time the classic version of these guys have been released, but this hip joint upgrade makes them so much better. Not only that, but the colors pop better, the articulation is more functional, and they won't be as prone to breaking, so they'll naturally have a longer shelf life than their previous releases. I do wish this set came with a bit more to match the current accessory count we get with current 2-packs these days, especially since the price of these jumped about $10 from the original offering. They're now sitting around $60. But because these guys are the definitive villains to pair up with your turtles other than Shredder and Krang, you definitely don't want to hesitate on these guys, even if you already have them in your collection, and especially if you're just now getting into the line. So in short, if you see them in store, if they pop back up online, buy them. You won't be disappointed. But that'll do it for this review. Were you able to pick these guys up? Who are your favorite villain in the TMNT cartoon line? Let me know in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my video if you found it helpful. It means a lot. Be sure to stick around for a gallery at the end, and as always, collect responsibly.